Hey, it's Corey. It's just me. Happy New Year, happy holidays, all that good stuff. And with that time of year comes the big one. If you're not following the website from day to day, you should go look at it every day. ZeldaDungeon.net. It's time for Best Zelda Ever 2024. So what's going to be happening today is it's just going to be me. I'm going to be reacting to it. And I'm the only one here. I'm going to tell you everything that is wrong with Best Zelda Ever 2024. And some things that I like. I should probably preface this by saying I'm the only one here. This is my opinion, and my opinion only. So let's get into it. Best Zelda Ever 2024. Before we get into this, I want to shout out Lloyd. Rod is the mastermind behind this whole operation. Rod is the editor-in-chief over at Zelda Dungeon, and this whole thing every year is a massive undertaking. It takes a lot of effort. There's a lot of number crunching involved. There's a lot of data collection involved because it's not every staff member, but a good chunk of staff members from Zelda Dungeon get to participate in this. The YouTube staff got to participate in this year, so we're grateful for that. This wouldn't happen without his efforts and the efforts of the entire writing staff. This is kind of their baby every year, so kudos to them. It's that time again. The annual tradition continues. The way this works, we ranked all 21 mainline Zelda titles, including Echoes of Wisdom, the newest one this year, as well as 3 high-profile spin-offs, Hyrule Warriors, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and Cadence of Hyrule. If a particular game has been re-released, remastered, or remade completely, we asked our staffers to consider all releases of that game collectively. So basically, when you're ranking Link's Awakening, you're thinking of Link's Awakening DX, and Link's Awakening 2019. Whatever's your highest, that's kind of what we're told to go based off of that, or whatever you want to rank it off of. A total of 29 ZD staff members contributed to this list, including the entire writing team, members of management team, and members of the YouTube crew. Every member submitted their own list from basically worst Zelda game to best Zelda game, and then from there it's assigned a point value. The people that have played more Zelda games, their highest ranked Zelda game will get more points. So someone who's only played 10 Zelda games and ranked 10 Zelda games, their best one would get 10. Whereas someone who's played all 21, or 24 rather, their best one would get 24 points. So it kind of ranks a little bit heavier towards the people that have played all of the games, which I think is pretty cool. Number 1, starting off at the beginning, Criminal! Triforce Heroes is ranked last, again. Highest rank was 17th, lowest rank was 24th, last year's rank was 22nd, and average points per author played 3.9. 9 out of 29 staffers had not completed the game and did not rank it. First of all, what are y'all doing? Just play this game. You can get it. I will say this game kind of sucks solo. And there's probably not anyone online still. But I think Triforce Heroes is criminally underrated because in my opinion, it's the peak of multiplayer Zelda experiences. Get out of here, cat! The attitude on this little cat. It's so much fun. It's so charming. There's excellent puzzle design, excellent level design, incredible music, and it's pretty unique, even though it uses a similar art style and graphical style to A Link Between Worlds. I think I understand why the multiplayer games are ranked so low. I have them low on my list as well. Triforce Heroes, however, is I think the best of the best when it comes to that. So 24. Criminally low, in my opinion. What can we say? Cora asks. Multiplayer Zelda games historically don't fare well on this list. For the past 5 years, Triforce Heroes and Four Swords have jockeyed back and forth for the title of, worst Zelda ever. The multiplayer Zelda games just don't play like a lot of the regular main series Zelda games, so it makes sense why that would be the case. And they're also commonly plagued with accessibility issues, and this is no exception. Now that it's not as easy to find people online to play with, this game is very, very difficult to play on your own. It's hard to play this solo, especially in certain levels. Number 23, Four Swords. This is my personal worst Zelda ever. I want to see this guy at the bottom, in my opinion. However, highest rank 10, lowest rank 24, last year's rank 23, average points per author played 3.56. 5 people had not completed this game and did not rank it. It is pretty surprising to me that more people have played the original Four Swords than have played Triforce Heroes, because Triforce Heroes is even more accessible than Four Swords. Four Swords, as it came out on the Game Boy Advance, ported with the Game Boy Advance port of A Link to the Past, you need 4 Game Boy Advance controllers and people that have the game and a bunch of link cables to even play it. I only was able to play this game first because of the Anniversary Edition, which was available on the 3DS, which isn't available anymore. In addition to that, since then I've played it at the Marathon, but it's not... this game is so bare bones. Four Swords by itself, it's just like, man, play anything else. It's not it. It ain't it for me, Chief. You walk super slow, the puzzles aren't very good, there's no story, there aren't really very cool cooperative moments. You'd think that in the first multiplayer Zelda game, that would be the big thing. It's really not. It's like everyone has their own little corner of the map where they're doing different things, and then you get to a puzzle that you all need to be together, and it's like, hey, Red, get over here. And then you gotta wait a minute and a half for Red to walk across the screen at 2 miles an hour just to get to you so you can push a big dang block. The bosses are kind of cool, though. I will say that. Our first spin-off, Hyrule Warriors. Highest rank 3. That is absolutely shocking to me that someone on staff put this as their 3rd favorite Legend of Zelda game. Kudos to you. If you like Hyrule Warriors, you like Hyrule Warriors. I'm not here to judge. I wouldn't have done that. Lowest rank 24. Last year's rank 19. Average points per author played 4.636. 9 staffers had not completed the game and did not rank it. That makes more sense. The same amount of people that had not played Triforce Heroes haven't played Hyrule Warriors. That's fair. That makes sense to me. Hyrule Warriors, and you know, the 3 spin-off games that we have on this list, they all have their own merits. They all have their own good things going for them, and they're all good games, by and large, standalone by themselves. They don't play like Legend of Zelda games, however. They're just, strictly speaking, very different genres. And in my personal opinion, I tend to put the spin-off games almost at the very bottom of the list. It's not like the 3 spin-offs are the very bottom 3 on my list. However, they're down there. Mostly just because they don't play like Legend of Zelda games. And when I play Legend of Zelda games, I'm looking for Wead, Wonder, Exploration, Adventure, Dodge. No, it's Discovery or something like that. Hyrule Warriors, it don't really got no Wead. It got more like slashing the guys ad. You're not really exploring a whole lot. You're exploring the map, but it's not that much. And the story is like, you know, if you played Hyrule Warriors, you know, the story is kind of like a big old mishmash of a bunch of stuff from Legend of Zelda. It's not canon. It kind of feels fan fiction-y at some points. Some people like that. I think it's kind of cool. It's not my favorite thing in a Legend of Zelda game, but alas, what are you gonna do? Adventure of Link, AOL, Zelda 2, criminal ranking. Alright, to be fair, I had Adventure of Link pretty low on my list, and I understand why people have it low on their list. It has not aged very well. It's very difficult to play, it's very punishing, and it's very demoralizing to play. Anyone out there, if you haven't played AOL on the Nintendo Switch Online, where you can do the rewind function and save states and stuff like that, my gosh, try it out. There's no reason for you to game over and restart back at the very beginning after you die 3 times or whatever. Which is why, in my opinion, this is the game that is most ripe and ready for a remake. I think this could be remade incredibly because main point, there is an awesome game in there. There is a great game in Adventure of Link. It took the original and implemented a lot more 2D platforming and side-scrolling elements, almost like a Metroidvania or Castlevania style game. But anyways, its highest rank was 7th, lowest rank was 24th. That's a shame. Last year's rank was 21, so same spot as last year. Average points per author played 4.458, and 5 staffers had not completed this game. It's apt to describe Zelda 2 as a product of its time, as Sean Gaddis details. After the early success of Legend of Zelda, Nintendo created a radical and experimental sequel that forgoes many elements of its predecessor in favor of a few new concepts like magic spells, experience points, and limited lives. The Adventure of Link is challenging, grindy game that rewards precision and grit. While it is clearly a game trapped in the now ancient game design conventions of its era, the game's place in the Zelda series is more complicated than many fans wish to acknowledge. Sean's got a great point there. It is. I think a lot of people would label this as the black sheep of the Zelda series because it feels so different compared to all the other mainline entries. I think it has some of the elements that Sean mentioned, stuff like the spells and the levels and the EXP, stuff like that. We could bring that back. We could see what it looks like. Let's bring it back. Let's do it. Number 20, Cadence of Hyrule. Highest rank was 10th. Lowest rank 24th. Last year's rank 20th. Average points per author played 6.5565. Turns out it's pretty fun, as it says right there. Built on a solid foundation of indie darling Crypt of the Necrodancer, this rhythm-based Zelda spin-off has won over countless fans with its charm, challenge, and unforgettable soundtrack. But even its fiercest defenders will admit the game's peculiarities make it hard to approach. The thing with Cadence of Hyrule, it's a rhythm game. So if you don't like rhythm games, you're not going to like it. I think, it's Cadence of Hyrule compared to the other spin-off games has the most weird because it's like you're exploring an overworld which is random. And it has excellent music, it's got good puzzles, it's got good combat, it's fun to play, it's a good game to play. But the thing is, if you're not into that, that rhythm mechanic, you're going to hate it. Because it's a rhythm-based game. I feel like it's just as simple as that. It doesn't fully play as a Legend of Zelda game because it's focused more on combat and the movement and timing it with the music and such. But that being said, very valiant effort from the studio that made this game. And 20th out of 24, not terrible. Number 19. Phantom Hourglass, the first of our 2 DS games, one of the lowest ranked mainline Legend of Zelda entries. Highest rank was 12, lowest rank was 24, last year's rank was 18, so it dropped 1 spot from last year. Average points per author played 6.708, and again, 5 staffers had not completed this game and did not rank it. Me being the Wind Waker fanatic that I am, I don't have this game ranked very high at all either. I think in terms of aesthetic and in terms of feel and what it's going for, it's kind of Wind Waker light. But you know what? There's a lot to be said about the ingenuity that was put into play when you consider the items and the puzzles and the way that they implemented the touchscreen. And this is another one where it's like, if you don't like the touchscreen mechanic, you're kind of screwed, because that's the whole gimmick of the entire game. That's the whole control scheme. So if you don't like that, you're not going to enjoy playing this game. Phantom Hourglass is a game that lives and dies by its reliance on the DS touchscreen. Seconds, Rod Lloyd. Rod Lloyd gets it. Personally, it doesn't do a whole lot for me in its own thing, so I think this is a fine spot for it. I think 19 is kind of fitting for Phantom Hourglass. I probably had it around there. Number 18, Age of Calamity. This will be our last spin-off game. This is the highest ranked spin-off game that we had on the list. Highest rank 6, which is kind of surprising because the highest rank for regular Hyrule Warriors was, I think, 3rd. And the lowest rank for this was 24th. Last year's rank was 16th, so it actually got bumped down 2 spots. Average points per author played 6.346. 3 staffers had not completed this game and did not rank it. Age of Calamity is a completely different beast. It's like if you took Hyrule Warriors and made it even more canon Zelda skinned. 100 years ago when all the stuff went bad, this is actually what went down. But Newsflash, it's not really what went down. It's not even real. It has a lot of the same stuff going on as Hyrule Warriors. So if you don't like hack and slash games, you're not going to like it. If you do like hack and slash games, you're going to like it. I thought it was fun to play. It's not something that I am interested in really revisiting, and it's not really something that I felt was worth my time as much as a lot of mainline Zelda games, just because those have that patented weird, baby. So many ways beyond the superficial, this spin-off evokes Breath of the Wild as if it were translated into a proper action game. That is very true, and that is what is very interesting about this game, is that it starts to incorporate more characters as we see them and know them in Breath of the Wild, and I'm not gonna lie, some of the story moments I popped off for in this game. It's pretty sick when you're going through this stuff and you're rescuing the new champions with the old champions. Crazy stuff starts happening. I think it's fair to have it above the other spin-off games. It doesn't play as a core series Legend of Zelda game for me, and that's what I like, so I would put this below those. But 18th, respectable for Age of Calamity. Number 17, Spirit Tracks. Highest rank 8, lowest rank 23rd. Last year's rank 15th, so it dropped 2 points. 4 staffers had not completed this game, did not rank it. What y'all doing? Play Spirit Tracks. If I had to list out all the Legend of Zelda games, it probably would be somewhere around here, floating around 17, not kind of in that bottom chunk. I personally think it takes the DS mechanics and turns it into something that is much more unique, because, you know, like I said, Phantom Hourglass to me just feels like Wind Waker Light. It feels like they took so much of the Wind Waker stuff and were like, yeah, but let's do that, but like it's on a DS game now, so you're just not going to get the full juice, you're not going to get the full impact of it. Spirit Tracks goes to lengths to separate itself. It still has the Toon Link style, and it's got interesting character design, but it's got the whole, you know, it's got the Spirit Tracks, and it's got the Locomo, and it's got the Locomo Sword, and you got New Hyrule, which we've never seen in a game since, and you got Spirit Zelda as your companion. There are some very unique things about this game, and it carries over some of the super interesting gameplay and puzzle mechanics that you do find in Phantom Hourglass, stuff that involves the touchscreen. The sand wand, golly gee, the sand wand, cool stuff in this game, and great music. Charles Xavier can provide a few more examples. It definitely has overall better dungeons and boss fights than its predecessor, Phantom Hourglass. It has a fantastic musical score. Realm Overworld being a standout for me. Realm Overworld is one of the most popular Zelda tracks that we have, folks. Come on, you know this. And on the conceptual level, it has very interesting elements that are full of charm, perhaps more so than some other entries in the series. I would agree with that, Charles. Number 16, Four Swords Adventures. Kudos to Four Swords Adventures for getting its roses. Four Swords Adventures, I think, is underrated. Does it deserve 16th out of 24? Out of 24? I'm not so sure. I personally think it's not quite as strong as Triforce Heroes. That being said, like I said before, Four Swords Adventures takes the concept that was implemented in Four Swords and actually fully fleshes it out. I can understand why people would like this game. I do like this game. This is a fun game to play, and it's also so much more accessible to play on your own. It's a little more streamlined and a little more fun and a little more exciting than the regular Four Swords. It's got a lot more juice to it. There's a lot more substance there. The puzzles are so much better. For me personally, one of the big things with this game and just a lot of the multiplayer games, besides the fact that they're multiplayer, they're like level based. That immediately cuts out a huge section of the wead for me, because you're not really exploring an overworld. You're sequestered to this level that has screens and it's got specific places where you can go. The highest rank was 3rd. That's very high. Lowest rank is 22nd, so no one put this as last or even second to last. That's pretty interesting to see. Last year's rank was 17th, so it did go up 1 spot from last year. Average points per author played, 8.125. Again, 5 out of 29 staffers had not completed this game and did not rank it. It's kind of interesting that in this bottom chunk we're seeing a similar amount of staffers have not played this game. So I think a lot of these, if everyone had played it, we might see a little bit of a differentiation in the scores, mostly just because, like, it might just get more points, depending on if the people that like it played more games, then it would automatically get more points. Or if someone, you know, if someone played all the games and didn't like it, then it would also not get a lot of points. So, number 15, The Legend of Zelda. Criminal! The Legend of Zelda is the epitome of weird in the Legend of Zelda series. This is what started it all. This was the, you know, Shigeru Miyamoto's brainchild, you know, related to his youth of running around in the hills of Japan and exploring and all that junk. This game is just like, hey, it's dangerous to go alone, take this, and then you just go. And there's definitely some quality of life updates it needs. This could definitely use a remake as well. It's in a similar boat, in my opinion, to The Adventure of Link. Some people might disagree with this, but I think, you know, it's a similar one where if you haven't played it on Nintendo Switch Online with the save states and the rewind feature, what are you doing? Just go do it! Just go do it now! The game that launched an entire series back in the NES era still deserves a healthy dose of respect from any Zelda fan, proclaims Leslie Jacobson. The fact that it has stood the test of time speaks volumes to its enduring quality. That is completely true. I think if we saw, well, we kind of did. Breath of the Wild was effectively the soft reboot and or remake of this style of Legend of Zelda game, where it's just kind of like drop you in and go, start exploring, start doing what you can do. This is pure distilled weird, folks. Number 14, Oracle of Seasons. Now we're getting into the Game Boy games. Highest ranked 4th, lowest ranked 21st, last year's ranked 13th, so it dropped by 1. Average points per player, blah, 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 blah. 4 out of 29 staffers had not completed the game, did not rank it. Y'all should be playing the Oracle games, folks. They take the game engine from Link's Awakening DX, and they twist it and reinvent it and use a lot of very cool items, a lot of very cool puzzles. These are some of the most unique Legend of Zelda games out there, even though they still use so much from Link's Awakening. That being said, I think 14th is fine for Oracle of Seasons, and I'm glad it's below Oracle of Ages, to be honest. That's what's really cool, I think, about Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. It's, besides Link's Awakening, this was one of the first one to be like, hey, you're not in Hyrule, you're in Labrynna, you're in Holodrum, you're in completely new places with completely new people that you don't know. And they take that Legend of Zelda formula that was developed and, you know, was originally implemented by A Link to the Past, honed in Link's Awakening and Ocarina of Time. It takes that and just starts really being like, that's what we're doing here, and taking it to perfection, honestly. Number 13, Oracle of Ages, 1 spot above Oracle of Seasons. I think on my list I had them more separated. I think I might have had Oracle of Ages higher than this and Oracle of Seasons lower than that. I personally think Oracle of Ages is a far superior game, but they got similar vibes going on. They got the exact same control scheme. They're even interlinked. This one's just a lot more focused on the dungeons and the puzzles. And naturally, that means it has incredible level design. It's got incredible dungeon design. It's got excellent puzzle design. It's got super cool item usage. Highest ranked 4th, lowest ranked 21st. Last year's ranked 12th. It dropped 1 spot. Average points per author played 10.4. 6 out of 29 staffers had not completed this game and did not rank it. That is surprising to me that 6 staffers hadn't played Oracle of Ages. However, 4 staffers hadn't played Oracle of Seasons. That strikes me as people started playing the Oracle games and they were like, I'm going to start with Oracle of Seasons. And they played that and then they didn't play Oracle of Ages. I think I would recommend playing Seasons first, because if you play Ages first, you're going to play Seasons and then be like, well, that's not as good. It surprises me that less people had played this game than Oracle of Seasons, yet it still stacked up higher. So maybe if those 2 people had played it and ranked it, it might be even, maybe it would be even higher than this. Who knows? Number 12. The Minish Cap. Criminal! 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 The Minish Cap, people, is one of the best 2D top-down Legend of Zelda games. This, in my opinion, this is the apex of Capcom-designed Legend of Zelda games. It has some elephants. It doesn't have any elephants, dang it. It has some elements from the Oracle games in here because it's a Capcom-based game. The Minish Cap itself is so charming and so unique, and its main mechanic of shrinking down to the size of a Minish to unlock new areas is such a novel concept. You've heard me spew about it on this channel ad nauseum. This is such a cool mechanic, and it's implemented so well in this game, and fusing kinstones is so cool, and there's excellent music, and the world feels fleshed out and lived in, and there's great puzzle design, there's good dungeons. It's just, I had this game higher. I guess I understand why it's down here. Highest ranked 3rd, lowest ranked 15th, last year's rank of 11. 3 out of 29 staffers had not completed this game and did not rank it. So definitely more people have played the Minish Cap than have played the Oracle games, and it's still only 1 spot above them. Maybe I can give it a pass because we're starting to get into the more of the heavy hitters of the Legend of Zelda series, where it's just like you're gonna have more people that feel incredibly fondly about these games. We haven't gotten at all to a game where someone ranked it number 1. And I'm interested to see what that first game is on this list. Despite that fact, it seems everyone on our staff has nothing but great things to say about the Minish Cap. Its charm, presentation, gameplay, story, and characters all come together to make one of the most solidly effective Zelda games out there. I think this game is really well designed. Exploration feels vast for such a small game, and the pacing as you proceed further in the game is just right. Vati is also a really interesting antagonist, and his final battle is one of my favorites on a handheld console. Judy gets it. Judy gets it, people. Number 11, Link's Awakening. This kind of hurts a little bit. Again, we're starting to get into that territory where it's like, I get why they're placed where they are. I think this should be higher. A lot of people are just generally more bigger fans of the 3D games, so a lot of the top-down games kind of get shirked down a little bit, but especially with the 2019 remake, Link's Awakening is just such a powerhouse of a Legend of Zelda game. Shout out Gooey's Dungeon Dive. If you really look at the way the Zelda series develops over time, this is the game where you really start to see that dungeon formula of explore what you can, get the dungeon item, then you can go and solve puzzles that you were teased earlier in the first part of the dungeon, and you get to use that in such a satisfying way, and then you get to use it in the boss battle. On top of that, it's one of the most unique ones as well. It's the only game that's set on Koholint Island. The Windfish, it's in a dream. Spoilers, it's in a dream. This is the first game that every single staff member has played and completed and ranked, and that's awesome. That this game, because I feel like before the remake, it's definitely possible that some people, just because of accessibility, had not played either the original or Link's Awakening DX. Its highest rank was 2nd. That's pretty dang high. That's exciting to see. Lowest rank was 21st. That's unfortunate. Who did that? I need to know. Last year's rank was 7th. Huge drop. That's a giant bummer in my opinion, because I think it deserves to be in that upper echelon. Maybe not the tippity top, but for me, it's definitely a few spots higher at least on my personal list. I don't know about 11. That puts it squarely as like a middling Zelda game, and I don't think it's... The doggies think Link's Awakening is great too. Link's Awakening is like if you took everything about the Zelda series and distilled it into a joyful, fruity concentrate. Nicole Scott articulates. Nicole Scott, you get it. Number 10, A Link to the Past. Criminal! People! It's A Link to the Past! What are we doing here? 10th? What the heck? Its highest rank was 1st. This was the first game on our list so far that someone put as their number 1 favorite Legend of Zelda game ever. And what's funny is 2 staff members haven't played this, yet everyone has played Link's Awakening. This is the game that really started it all. It's not, obviously. The original Legend of Zelda is what started it all. But guess what? After the original Legend of Zelda, you have Adventure of Link. Pretty unique. Black sheep of the series still. Has some things that come back in the series, but not really. It's still kind of a standalone thing. A Link to the Past introduced so much into the Legend of Zelda series that I don't think people really fully recognize. There are a lot of aspects of Ocarina of Time that I think people assume were originally introduced in Ocarina of Time, but were actually introduced in A Link to the Past, like the idea of a person named Ganondorf and Ganon's theme and Zelda's Lullaby and Kakariko Village and a bunch of stuff, a bunch of ding-dang stuff. This stands the test of time, but if you need that extra boost, if it's a little too hard for you, you can play it on Nintendo Switch Online as well, and you can do the rewind and the save state features and stuff. First place finish is 1. Last year's rank 10th, so this is the same rank as last year, and that's unfortunate for me because this game is in my top 5. It's tied or it's at number 5, or maybe it's number 6. It's for sure in my top 10. I know that. Number 9, Echoes of Wisdom. This is kind of exciting to see. Besides 1, which we have not gotten to, this is the highest ranked top-down Legend of Zelda game, and it's the newest, and it's one of the most unique. If you were watching this channel, you have heard us talk about Echoes of Wisdom. We've been doing that a lot lately. It's a great game. We all kind of loved it. Highest rank was 2nd, lowest rank 14. Last year's rank didn't have one. This game takes a lot of elements of stuff like Link's Awakening and then incorporates some of the new style Legend of Zelda elements from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Some of that more open world, some of the more exploration based freedom and, freedom to puzzle solve in whatever way you can because of the mechanic. Creating echoes is one of the most unique mechanics that we have in the Zelda series, and I think it's just really exciting to see top-down Zelda get this new reinvigorated appearance. We weren't really sure what the future of top-down Zelda was going to be after the likes of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And this truly shows, as Eiji Aonuma said, the future is bright. They got ideas now for top-down Zelda. They're gonna do it. They're gonna keep doing it. Heather Beard, pardon the pun, echoes that sentiment. It is quite exciting to see Echoes of Wisdom crack the top 10 for Best Zelda Ever in its very first year, because I feel like the game truly deserves the honor. Echoes of Wisdom not only provided what I didn't know now I was missing from new Zelda game, but it also provided the long-awaited opportunity to play as our favorite princess in a mainline game for the very first time. That is something to be said. This was the first mainline game where we were able to play as Princess Zelda as the main protagonist of the game. Very exciting things. I'm interested to see how it stacks up next year. Who knows if this is recency bias or if people are just going to look at this game super fondly, but strong showing for Echoes of Wisdom this year. Number 8, Skyward Sword. This is the lowest ranked 3D Legend of Zelda game. It's probably one of the most divisive, which I think makes sense. As you can see, highest rank 1st, lowest rank 22nd. Last year's rank was 8th, so it didn't move. That's good. And it had 3 first place finishes. That's a super strong showing. Skyward Sword has so many excellent things going for it. I have some pretty strong opinions about Skyward Sword and what makes it good and what makes it not so good in some spots, but I think it's pretty blatantly obvious that people's opinions on Skyward Sword are not unanimous. It's unfortunate because it's one of those games where the core mechanic is centered around a gimmick that has to do with the mechanics of the console. So if your gameplay mechanics aren't working properly, you're gonna have a bad time with this game, and that's not the fault of the game, it's the fault of the console. I had it lower on my list for sure, just because it's as the years go on, I'm starting to kind of reevaluate what I see as valuable in a Legend of Zelda game. Skyward Sword has awesome things about it. It's pretty long. It's kind of plotting. It's not super enticing to play, in my opinion. Now we have the option to play with button-only controls, which I think is incredibly exciting, and the 60 FPS frame rate on the Switch feels absolutely incredible. So good for Skyward Sword. Number 7, Majora's Mask. If I'm not mistaken, Majora's Mask has been very, very high on this list before. And I don't know it's a matter of the public perception changing about it. I think that's probably not the case. It must just be our staff members filtering in and out, people who think super highly of it versus people who don't think super highly of it. Its highest rank was 1st, and its lowest rank was 22nd. That's really low to rank Majora's Mask in my opinion. I had it lower than 7th in my personal rankings just because it's another one where the central mechanic is centered around this 3-day time gimmick where you got to reset it every 3 days to make sure that the moon doesn't crash. I personally don't like being put on a timer. This game has grown on me more over the years as I have found ways to handle that better, you know, as I've got the Song of Double Time and all that stuff and the way to slow time. And Majora's Mask, it's a classic 3D Legend of Zelda game. It was the second 3D Legend of Zelda game, one of the most beloved follow-ups to one of the most beloved video games, not just Zelda games, one of the most beloved video games of all time. It's kind of surprising to see it at 7th, and even though I personally ranked it lower than this, it kind of stings a little bit to see it down here. Number 6, The Wind Waker. I love The Wind Waker. Highest rank 1. First place finishes 3. You know who was one of those? Moi. I think it's incredible. I think it is the apex of Wead in the Legend of Zelda series. I think it is so much fun. I think stylistically it's the best one. I think the music is excellent. There's no need to gush on it. Let's see what other people have to say about it. Lowest rank 16th, pretty dang low. I don't want to know who that is. I'll freak out on you. I'll do it. 6th, I think, is respectable, especially because we have, you know, Tears of the Kingdom came out in the past few years, and before that, Breath of the Wild, and those two naturally slotted in very high, so it makes sense that this might be dropping a little bit. It takes the elements of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask that were exciting and were popular and implements them into a completely new adventure with a completely new gimmick and mechanic. In my opinion, a much more impressive physics engine for a game to where when you are in that space, you feel like that space exists and is real, and the laws of physics apply, and they make sense, and they dictate the puzzles that you solve. And in that way, I think it's kind of like a proto Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are now famous for their incredible gameplay physics and engine that they work so much on, so that all of these elements of the game can interact together in a certain way. That stuff, in my opinion, really originated in The Wind Waker. For all The Wind Waker does right, it does suffer a few standout shortcomings that have kept it from climbing much higher in the BCE ranks. Let's turn to Alexis Anderson, who has to temper her praise with a little criticism. I wish I was a bigger fan of The Wind Waker, but I found the game to be very easy and at the same time tedious, basically just because of the obligatory sailing. That's fair. It is another one where it's like, if you don't enjoy sailing, unfortunately you're just not going to like the game as much because there's a lot of sailing in the game. There are definitely things that people can point at in this game, and I can recognize, yes, yeah, I could see that as a flaw, or I could see why someone wouldn't like that. That being said, I might not think it's the best Zelda ever, but it is my favorite Zelda ever, personally. Number 5, A Link Between Worlds. Woo! Yeah! Baby! Last year's rank was 9th, and its highest rank was 1st. It only had one first place finish, but the caveat, the big factor for A Link Between Worlds was that its lowest rank was only 12th. Only 12th. That's halfway through. That means out of all 28 out of 29 staffers that played this game, the lowest anyone put it was the very middle of the series, which effectively means every person who played this game thinks it's in the top half of Legend of Zelda games, which, in my opinion, is incredible. I have been preaching the strengths of this game for so long now, and it's this game is in my top 5. It's in my top 3. It's my top 2. Maybe it's 3. I don't remember what I have. It's an amazing spiritual successor to A Link to the Past. It takes so much about that game that made it interesting and exciting and made it fresh at the time, and twists it with this new mechanic. And I can't personally think of anyone I've heard who says the 2D wall merge mechanic is not good. In my opinion, A Link Between Worlds has some of the strongest dungeons and puzzles in the entire series bar none. Alex Weber, who recently replayed this one after finishing X of Wisdom, sure has. I had pretty high expectations going in, and A Link Between Worlds was even better than I remembered. Wall merging provides such a satisfying range of movement, enabling the existence of complex puzzles and making you think out of the box in a rewarding way. This came at the time when Nintendo was starting to be like, okay, break the conventions. The Zelda formula, let's break it. Let's smash it. Smash it into pieces. Just like this. That was a Christmas gift I got. It was pretty cool, right? Don't worry, it's magnetic. It pieces back together. It's a Zelda pop, but you break it. It's got magnets. That's cool, right? I don't think its praises are really sung very highly because it was almost immediately followed up a few years after by Breath of the Wild, which was like, hey, do whatever you want whenever you want. I personally think this game should be a case study in how to do something that is considered open world but also still has relative structure to it. It's real good. Number 4, Twilight Princess. This game's gonna be high always, I feel like, unless there's a huge change of heart. So many people just love this game. Highest rank 1st, lowest rank 17th. That's pretty dang low. That's a little scary. Twilight Princess is so many times attached, for better or for worse, to Ocarina of Time. This was supposed to be like the gritty, more epic, more almost like Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings style epic fantasy, high fantasy, cool crazy stuff Legend of Zelda game, which is kind of what people expected after Ocarina of Time. Once we were getting the GameCube and people saw in the Space World demo what they were able to create with that kind of software, they were like, yeah, let's get a full-blown big boy adult Link fighting big boy adult Ganon. It's gonna be epic. It's gonna be a sword fight. It's gonna be sick. And then we got Wind Waker, and people got a little mad about that. When Twilight Princess came out, even though a lot of times it gets compared to Ocarina of Time, it has so much that holds it on its own 2 feet. It is very, very aesthetically distinct. Some people have certain things to say about it. Some people absolutely love it. You know what? It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think it would be inaccurate to say that it's uninspired, at the very least. They were clearly going for something. Whether or not it hit with you or it did not, that's something else to be said. It's got some of the most memorable and incredible musical themes and dungeons and puzzles and boss fights and items in the whole series. This Hyrule felt like such a fully realized, lived-in, fleshed out high fantasy Hyrule Kingdom. For me, at least. Number 3, Tears of the Kingdom. Highest rank 1st, lowest ranked 18th. Last year's rank 2nd, dropped 1 spot. First place finishes 4. And every single staff member has completed this game. Basically what this means is we haven't seen Breath of the Wild yet. So I think this is a conversation that's going to be going on for a long time after this game's release, because when Breath of the Wild came out, it was revolutionary when it comes to the Zelda series, but it immediately from the beginning it had its detractors. Even though so many people were like, this game's incredible, this is the new, this is what the Zelda series is going forward, there were a good amount of people that were also in the camp of, this isn't a Zelda game. This doesn't feel like the Zelda that I know and love, so I don't appreciate it that much. Now we have Tears of the Kingdom, which had its own weird marketing things, and you could argue whether or not it's too similar or different from Breath of the Wild. But it has a completely different set of abilities and mechanics, and you're exploring the same overworld, but it's so different, but it's also so the same. This is one of the weirdest, I think, follow-ups that we've ever gotten to a game in the Legend of Zelda series, because it's so, like, Breath of the Wild coded, but it's also so not. It kind of just hinges on whether or not the new stuff is enough to push it over the edge for you, to push it over that Breath of the Wild threshold for you. For me, it personally is, because I think that the mechanics like Ultra Hand and Fuse and Ascend and Ultra Build ultra build. An auto build, it takes that I can do anything feeling in Breath of the Wild and just pulls all the rails off and says, no, you can actually do whatever the heck you want. And it leads to some of the best puzzles in the entire series. We got the return of somewhat more traditional dungeons. Some people still look at the dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom and it doesn't quite meet their criteria, but for me, I think it took what was so good about Breath of the Wild's dungeon designs in the Divine Beasts and incorporated it into a much more familiar and unique setting with the dungeons that we got. And in my opinion, this is just, different answer depending on who you'll ask. I think Tears of the Kingdom has one of the best stories in the entire series, bar none. It's so good. The Zonai devices combined with Ultra Hand and Auto Build meant the only limit on your creations was your imagination. And before a certain glitch was patched, it was great fun to take out a Lionel using a small wall of treasure chests as a distraction. The addition of the Sky Islands and the Depths added different aspects to a familiar Hyrule, enabling new challenges to explore. Plus, being able to seamlessly dive from the sky to the surface was exhilarating. I agree. Number 2, Breath of the Wild. Highest rank, 1st. Lowest rank, 14th. First place finishes 5. And again, every staff member has played this game. That's something that I find is so interesting. Every staff member that has participated in this has played the most recent Legend of Zelda games. But some people haven't played the classics. Breath of the Wild, unarguably, was revolutionary when it came out. It shattered the Zelda formula. But that being said, it also brought the series back to its roots in such a profound way that I don't think any other game has done since. Besides Tears of the Kingdom obviously followed up Breath of the Wild and took that and, in my opinion, turned the notch to 11 on the creativity scale. But Breath of the Wild was like, you're in a world and you have to adventure and you have to figure out your way and you can go do whatever the heck you want. And we haven't gotten something that pure since the original. In my opinion, the closest we got was Wind Waker. But when it comes to Wead, Breath of the Wild, potentially unmatched. Another factor that contributed to Breath of the Wild's rebound in the rankings was the introduction of several new writers into the Zelda Dungeon family. Some of those folks have a very special connections to The Legend of Zelda's first Switch adventure, as evidenced by Jared Eubanks. Breath of the Wild was my first Zelda game, he discloses, and it's the one that hooked me into becoming an ardent fan of the series. That's something that it's gonna take some getting used to, but it makes so much sense. Like, Breath of the Wild was such a huge, not just a breakthrough for the series, but it was such a huge breakthrough in pop culture gaming. So many people knew Breath of the Wild, so many people played Breath of the Wild, and so many people got introduced to the Legend of Zelda series from Breath of the Wild, which I can't imagine being one of those people and going to play the other classic Legend of Zelda games, because in my mind there's a very distinct possibility that you play Breath of the Wild and you're like, I love this. And then you play a classic Legend of Zelda game and you're like, I don't like this at all. It's not the same. There are elements of Breath of the Wild that are so very different from the Zelda formula that we know and love that Breath of the Wild really stands on its own. And it's pretty incredible to see. Finally, number 1, Ocarina of Time. Woo! Yeah! Woo! Did you expect anything else? I'll let you in on a secret. Our staff loves Ocarina of Time. I don't know how when this is gonna change in the future. So let's just look at the statistics here. Highest rank 1st, lowest rank 16th. That's actually pretty surprising. That's pretty low. That's lower than the lowest rank that even A Link Between Worlds got. Last year's rank was 1st, but this is the big thing. First place finishes 7. 7 people out of these 29 who, by the way, every single one of them have played this game. 7 people put it as their number 1 Legend of Zelda game, which means 7 people got 24 points each for this game. It doesn't surprise me, to be honest. The streak continues for the 7th year straight. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, a game Rod once referred to as the Citizen Kane of video games, has decisively claimed the top spot of Zelda Dungeon's best Zelda ever list. And unlike in 2023, it wasn't even close. There's no point in me waxing poetic on Ocarina of Time, because you can go on any Zelda publication and most people will do that for you. It revolutionized 3D gaming. It revolutionized the Zelda series' first adaptation in 3D. It introduced so many cool things, not just for adventure games, but just for gaming in general in 3D. Ocarina of Time truly is a benchmark in gaming history. It's not personally one of my favorite Zelda games. I definitely had it lower. I didn't have it nearly as low as 16th, because I can't even justify that. It's an incredible game. It makes sense. So many people, not just our staff, but so many people who know Legend of Zelda, if their first game wasn't Breath of the Wild, a lot of their first games were Ocarina of Time, depending on when you were born and when you first started playing video games. I would say this is probably one of the most common "this was my first Legend of Zelda game" Zelda games. And because of that, so many people just have super strong feelings of it, coupled with the fact that there is no denying it influenced so much of the series and so much of just 3D gaming in general. Well, that's it, folks. That's all we got this year for Best Zelda Ever 2024. I hope you liked this. I hope you liked my reaction, and I hope you go to zeldadungeon.net and check out all the excellent stuff we have there. We have editorials, we have specials like this, we have daily debates, we have a wiki, we have forums, we have guides, we have everything you need. Go to the website. If you're here, go to the website and check it out. Lastly, I want to make a huge shout out to everyone that's right here, this whole writing team, and of course Rod Lloyd, the editor-in-chief, mastermind behind this whole thing. This would not happen without all of these people, and trust me when I say that this is a huge undertaking, and they put so much effort into this, and we would not have this incredibly cool list without these people. So, round of applause for the writing team and Rod, and just everyone that contributed in general. That's gonna be it from me today, folks. Like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. Let us know what you think about this list. What do you think about Best Zelda Ever Zelda Dungeon 2024? Do you think this list was really good? Do you think it was really not good? What does your list look like? What would you have changed? What would you have wished was higher or lower? Let us know in the comments. Let us know anything else. And Happy New Year.